This video is intended to foster open and respectful dialogue about identity and race. I fully respect the dignity and equality of all people, regardless of their background. I encourage viewers to approach this conversation with an open mind and respectful attitude.
In January of last year, a video was published by Charlie Cheon entitled, "What Are We Doing to White People?" In this video, he proceeded to articulate a feeling of discomfort that he felt in relation to certain attitudes that were being propagated against white people by minorities in the American community. To refresh your memory, or in case you haven't seen it, here is a handful of clips that Charlie analyzed in his video.
Accomplices ask, how can they support Black and Indigenous people of color? And sometimes I really don't know what to say, but here's one easy way. Just don't have babies.
Women can single-handedly cause the white genocide that they are so afraid of. With 2.25 billion Asian women and 500 million white men, baby, it'll only take 2 generations. In 2 generations, there will no longer be any blonde-haired.
These are some things I noticed about white American culture. Being grounded is a punishment to them. That's what they call punishment. The least grounded, least balanced, most destructive race considers being grounded a punishment? Yeah. They also say really violent phrases. They say things like, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Why do we have to kill the birds? Why is everything so violent? It's almost like one's language and phrases reflects one's nature.
So that new Jeffrey Dahmer movie on Netflix is the perfect example of the sensationalization of white violence. People have a much easier time sympathizing with white criminals than they do with Black victims. People think these shows are harmless, but they actually contribute to a much bigger issue. It contributes to the viewpoint that white people are less violent than everyone else, and white violence is something to be consumed in media, and that's it.
What is with Caucasian people and like their inability to like read a fucking room? Like, y'all act like you don't understand shit. White people do not need to explain to anybody about us all bleeding red because baby, you all are the people that need to learn that lesson. Clearly, history shows that you all are the people that like to pillage and eradicate, enslave and oppress, attempt to suppress greatness because you all simply don't have it.
Right? Here go y'all cum goblins who don't even live in the fucking city. Which, by the way, the Q-tip people are the last ones to ever talk about somebody stealing anything. Y'all wouldn't be in this country had it not been for y'all stealing it. So y'all are more focused on people looting and trying to get necessities and things that they need. And yes, a TV is a fucking necessity thing. You feel like you're better than because people are out here stealing and you would never. First of all, if you are a Mayo monster, that is how your ancestors got everything, from stealing.
And that's a behavior that's very common among white women. You may have not intended that, but there are many white women who act exactly like you.
If you can find it in your heart this holiday season to donate to the Discriminated White Fund, you'd be helping millions.
Nothing says high protein like cicadas and cheese. Make sure you...
And nothing says caucasity like that right there.
What caucasity looks like. Roaming Asian grocery stores like it's an amusement park.
Explain to me why white people don't wear shoes outdoor, but wear shoes inside.
We're both white women. We are inherently a danger in spaces for Black, Indigenous, and other people of color simply by existing.
It's white cis men who are a part of the far right-wing ideology of fascism. That is a true threat and the terrorism to this country.
If BIPOCs stand in the street and scream at the top of their lungs, I hate all white people, I want all white people to go die, die white devil, you cracker bitch, that's still not racism.
You're not one of the good white people. Stop separating us from the bad white people. Don't sit out there in comments and say, we don't claim them. We are them. We are the ones shooting up schools. We are the ones raping people, the ones enslaving people.
And I'll say it. I hate being white. Which means I'm one of the good ones.
all white people are inherently racist.
Yes.
Can you be racist against white people?
Based off of the definition of racism, yes, but it's not gonna hurt them and hurt their opportunities like it does people of color.
While technically you can, it's not like an issue.
You can't oppress the oppressor.
If it helps you sleep at night, I'm racist to white people and I'm proud of it.
Why do people not understand that you can't be racist to white people? It's impossible. The system is not set up that way. You can insult white people, but it is not racism. Me calling a white person a tub of mayonnaise and like a flower looking ass, that's not racist.
You went all the way to Africa to physically take black people from their homes, shove them in on boats where a lot of them got diseases and died, told them where they could sit on a bus, told them which schools they could go to, which water fountains they could use, which bathrooms they could use, and that's sugarcoating it. Those are just terms. I'm not even describing all the disgusting things that happen, and they don't even want revenge. They are letting you guys skate by asking for equal rights. That's it? And you're still saying no? They are not as angry as they should be. Y'all are getting off easy and you're still saying no? Fuck you.
Regardless of what you think about what he said in the video, if you think he was right, if you think he was wrong, clearly his opinion has sparked a lot of controversy. The video has amassed close to 5 million views and has sparked a lot of debate within social media platforms. As I was browsing through the many videos that have been made on YouTube in response to Charlie's video, I couldn't help but notice that there haven't been many white people that have responded to Charlie. It mostly has been fellow Asians, blacks, or Hispanics. For that reason, I wanted to share my opinion, not just on Charlie's video, but holistically around the current racial tensions in America and in the West in general. First of all, I wanted to give you guys an introduction to my understanding of race and racial divisions specifically in 2024. According to the taxonomy that most historians would agree upon, these are the 3 groups that human beings can be categorized under. I'll write them in different colors so it's easier to see for you guys. So we have obviously race, sub-race. I'll explain what this actually means in a second. And finally, local groups. Okay, so these are the 3 main categories that human beings can be divided into. Let me explain to you guys what these actually mean, right? So your race, first of all, is determined by your continent of origin. So in my case, it would be white European, then there's Asians, Africans, Native Americans, and Aboriginal Australians. So these 5 continents. The category of sub-race means subtle differences between people that are of the same race. So for example, the difference between a Polish person and a Greek person, right? The Polish person will be kind of white, blonde, blue eyes, very pale skin, and the Greek would have, slightly darker skin, brown hair, brown eyes. Or for example, the difference between a Japanese person and an Indonesian person, right? There will be subtle differences in terms of skin color, complexion, that kind of thing. But overall, they are all part of the same race, right? And then finally, local groups. So these are subtle differences in your actual country, right? So people from the north of England will be a little bit different culturally compared to people from London, or people from the northern part of Italy will be quite different to people from the southern part of Italy. Most people are aware of the cultural differences in all these groups, starting from the local groups. Somebody from Chicago in America is going to have a different way of posing himself to the world compared to somebody from Alabama, or somebody from Milan in Italy will be very different in terms of the way they speak, the way they gesticulate, compared to somebody from Naples in southern Italy, right? Talking about the local groups specifically, these differences don't mean that one local group is in any way better than the other local group, although they may have a sense of pride in belonging to that local group. Just go to any football game, people are always going to be proud of their city of origin, for example. Now, we've established that there are very clear differences in the local groups. Now, moving on to the sub-races, I don't think anybody would deny that there are very clear differences from a cultural perspective between an Italian person and a Swedish person, right? This doesn't mean that the Swedish person is better than the Italian person, or the Italian person is better than the Swedish person. It just means that they have different attitudes towards life. They have different ways of going about things. They have different food. They have different music. They just have a sense of cultural identity. So that is the sub-races. Now, moving on to the big one, which is race. This is where we see the probably biggest cultural differences of all. Like if you take a family from Senegal compared to a family from South Korea, their food is going to be different, their religion is going to be different, pretty much every single thing about them is going to be different in one way or another. Again, I will say for the last time, that does not mean that the family from Senegal is better or that the family from South Korea is better. That just means that there are cultural differences that no sane human being would deny. And it would seem that every race out of the ones that we mentioned earlier, which again, to reiterate, are Asians, white Europeans, Africans, Native Americans, and Indigenous Aboriginal Australians, every race is allowed to have a sense of pride in their cultural identity and their characteristics, their traditions, except for white Europeans. Now, that brings us back to Charlie's video where he very eloquently articulated this hatred that some people seem to have for white people, and this sense of hatred seems to be growing and growing the more we go forward as a society. Now, it isn't that difficult to understand the base level reasoning behind the sense of antipathy towards white people. Clearly, anybody that insults white people would talk about colonialism, would talk about slavery, and yeah, it is true, it is horrible. There were white slave traders from Europe that would purchase black African slaves from black African slave traders in Africa. Research the Ashanti Empire, research the Oyo Empire. History is actually quite complex, and I feel that we are being presented with an overly simplistic narrative that I don't understand why is being pushed upon us. This is exceptionally alarming if you take into account the declining birth rates in the white population. According to the US Census Bureau, birth rates for white women have declined dramatically over the last few decades. In 2021, the birth rate for white women was around 1.64 children per woman, which is below the replacement level of 2.1. Comparatively, birth rates for Hispanic and black women have continued to increase over the last 20 years. The birth rate for Hispanic women is 2.05 and the birth rate for black women is 1.94. In conclusion, I really appreciated Charlie's video and I'm glad that it got the attention that it did receive. We can only hope that in the future content like this leads to us learning to accept and appreciate our cultural differences as opposed to hating each other for them.